Hi, hello, and welcome. This is Guide to New York, Part 1, New York City, Part 1, The Five Boroughs, Part 1. I'm sorry, I don't know how many boroughs there are, but 5 sounds pretty good. And I went to 2 of them. As we're leaving the Twin Cities, we must always enjoy the sign that's still there. You can see it. It's like, this made sense years ago, and it's still there, this sign. Was there a problem? There was a problem. They were having problems. People were leaving their keys in the ignition switch, and they had to do something about it, and they made a sign. And amazingly, the sign is still up as of very recently. I check every time I'm at the MSP airport. The MSP airport is an award-winning airport. There are like signs everywhere inside saying that this is the best airport. It's like classic abuser, if you think about it. Like the abuser, red flag, not to belittle, well, I've stepped in it. There's something weird about an airport or any entity saying like, this is the best you're going to do. I feel like they're implying that with the MSP airport. I consider myself a connoisseur of airports, and right out of the gate, MSP fails in one very key way, which is that unless you're at the Humphrey terminal, which is, they now just call Terminal 2 to be fair or whatever, you can't walk out of there on foot. You can't. I've walked out of SeaTac. I've walked out of freaking LAX on foot and just entered a neighborhood. I've walked out of Chicago Midway. There are others. The Barcelona airport, you can't walk out of there and be in a neighborhood. We were just somewhere. Where did we just go? Oh my God. It's the end of a long day, and I'm sorry. Oh, DFW. I love that airport. I have a whole thing on that coming up, part 1. The thing is like 47 minutes, and I'm stalling. This editing takes a lot of time, you know. And if I do DFW and start editing, it's going to take me like 2 weeks, and it's going to be like an hour and a half every evening after work. So I was like, well, I'll just make something shorter in the meantime. We'll do a New York City. Anyway, the DFW airport, you can't really walk out of there either. It's like locked in. So anyway, MSP airport, nice. Once you get inside, it's fine. I'm glad that they're doing a publicity campaign to prevent people from leaving their car keys in the ignition switch. And I love this site so much. But you can't really just get off your plane, put on your backpack, and start walking and get into a neighborhood. You're blocked in by freeways and things, and that's a big strike against it. I can't give MSP more than a 7 out of 10. I don't care how many little wine bars they put inside there, and like stores paying tribute to Prince, who we all miss dearly. I don't care unless I can walk out of there after my flight. I'm not giving it more than a 7. There's a flight to Eau Claire now. This was a big deal. I think it's Sun Country or Delta. I can't remember. One of these homegrown airlines flying to Eau Claire. I think the time, wheels up, wheels down. I've never understood what that means, but I think the entire time from gate to gate is if they're not de-icing or something, I think they can do this flight in like 33 minutes. And I have a vehicle that gets to Eau Claire in like 90 minutes. And of course, that's not quick enough for some people. I don't know. But I noticed there's a bus to Eau Claire, which I thought was funny. That's going to take longer than the flight. Sort of sweet. I'll try to find it and put it in here. And if I can't find it, I'll just find something to put here instead. It'll be the giant burrito picture or something. But hopefully I can find there's some Minneapolis area aviation enthusiast group. Like, of course, the first time that the flight went to Eau Claire, one of these airplane heads, airplane flight enthusiast people got on it, took a selfie, and celebrated with the crew for this new milestone in upper Midwestern aviation, commercial aviation history. So we're going to New York. Very wintry in Minnesota. We're at the MSP airport. Well kept secret. I think that's a good term. If you're looking for a snack at the MSP airport, you have a lot of choices. Remember, it's one of the highest rated airports ever, according to like lots of signs inside the airport. I don't think I have any pictures of these, but if you've ever been in MSP, you've seen how there's a big campaign to make sure people know how lucky they are. They're not going to do any better than this. This is the best they're going to do. Better not even think of leaving. That's funny for an airport. Inside, there's the People's Coffee Company place that's nice. There's usually a bit of a line. It's sort of expensive. The people are friendly. They make good espresso. Starbucks. There's a wine bar with usually pretty chatty bartenders. I kind of like it there if I have a long wait. But if I just need something, I go to the Dunkin' Donuts, where they're just weirdly little island of like reality inside of the airport. No $13 sandwiches. Maybe there's like a 50-cent markup on each thing. No line, usually. Friendly and helpful staff. Quick service, the whole bit. They have an actual espresso machine, which I'm showing you here with the push buttons. It's pretty darn good espresso. There's always a really long line at the Starbucks across the way. This is in the main whatever. And the Dunkin' Donuts, you can just walk right up to the counter, order, and get your thing. I call that a well-kept secret. I gave this 5 stars on Google, actually. And I'll look on TripAdvisor, and I'm inserting space here for TripAdvisor reviews of the MSP Airport Dunkin' Donuts, or Google reviews. And here's one of them. There it is. See it? And here's another. I haven't found them yet. If there are none worth posting, I'll put up something else. I'll put up a picture of maybe the world's largest burrito from Wyoming, from the forthcoming series Guide to Wyoming, parts 1 through X being unknown. This is going to go on for a while, though. I've seen a lot of places, and I've checked them all out. There's the Dunkin' Donuts. Anyway, we're going to New York City. There's another lounge at MSP that makes it one of the best airports that you have a shot at ever visiting, and probably the best you'll ever do. You're probably not ever going to do any better than the MSP airport. So why don't you just have a seat and stop thinking about all those other airports. This is it. We're in it for the long haul. Dunkin' Donuts. That and the purple, she knows what I'm talking about. I mean, when you're hungry, do you want to wait, or she's getting right into it? Hey, thanks, person in the purple. The tram. We're headed for New York City. Made a friend on the airplane. Pretty cool, from Idaho, I think. Now here I'm looking smug. I made it all the way to Newark, and I'm happy that I chose sort of like an urban looking jacket, because I don't want to be the guy in New York City that looks like I'm dressed up to go camping with like bright colored fleece. So I decided to wear something a little more like gritty. So I went with this jacket, and I think that's 90% of why I'm looking so smug in this photo. But honestly, if I'm out doing stuff, I'm probably feeling smug because I just like to get out and do stuff. There's a train from the New York Airport into New York City, and there's a little machine where you buy a ticket, and it's pretty self-explanatory. And you better figure out how to explain it to yourself, because while there are some employee type people that can help you, they're not particularly helpful. But then this is New York City, right? Where you're sort of on your own. That's part of the fun. So I sort of guessed, and I learned how to read the little timetable thing, and I waited like 45 minutes. And I always run. If there's a train to catch, I act like I'm about to miss it and that there's never going to be another one. I did that in Paris this year, and a lot. And I eventually realized I was the only one doing it, because there's always another train, like rule of life, right? A lot of fish in the sea, whatever. But these trains from the Newark Airport to New York City, they're only like every 45 minutes or something. Deal with it. Whatever. It was a nice day. I pointed out that it was wintry in Minnesota. This was actually December. Got to New Jersey, and it's like fall hasn't even started yet. I don't know if that's a climate thing or what, but there's this cute little platform. And I'm going to get us to New York City. I'm going to make sure that happens before I cut and send you to part 2 for the rest. It's going to take even longer to make. There's some nice shots of just the scenes of, I love public transport. Have I mentioned often in my dreams while I'm sleeping, those kind of dreams, it's transport. I'm at airports or train stations, and things are happening. I'm headed somewhere, or I'm arriving somewhere. A lot of dreams where I'm on a flight or a train, and that's my happy place. I'm in my element when I'm waiting for a train or a plane, or just getting off of one. It's so fun. Oh, it's so fun. I love it. So the train, we get on, the train takes off. A conductor, very crabby conductor, which I expect nothing less, comes along and stamps my ticket and looks at me like I'm an idiot, walks away. No satisfaction. I don't get an explanation for why I should feel like an idiot. He just, you're not going to, the message received. That's all I can say. So we're on the train, and it's just exciting, right? I'm excited. Other people take the train every day. The novelty wears off. It remains to be seen. I've never been a daily commuter on a public transit, but I like to think that just like if I had the skipping dog referenced in Forthcoming Guide to Los Angeles part whatever, the dog that skips, if I were the owner of the skipping dog, that I like to think that I would never let the novelty wear off. And so it is with these commuter trains. I just think they're the greatest. Now, a seasoned New Yorker, which is basically anyone who's ever lived in New York for any period of time longer than a vacation or a visit, and reminds you of this constantly. You know how they just have ways of bringing it up in conversation? Like, well, in New York, that would never fly, because it tends to come up. And I've noticed people do this with Chicago too. Los Angeles, not so much, or maybe they just don't run into them. But anyway, what's my point? Oh, seasoned New Yorkers will say, yeah, the train is real fun until a smelly person sits down next to you. And yeah, of course that's true. But can't you get up and move? Okay, lots and lots of industrial scenes, which I had been really looking forward to. And just the light. There's something about the light in the Northeast in the afternoon. I feel it's unique. I feel it's different from the light in the Midwest and anywhere else that I've ever seen. It just has a certain quality. It's almost like an egg mixed in at 10%, that like eggy white yellow. I'm not explaining myself well, but I know there's a documentary about the Pixies from way back before they started having the revolving door of bass players, that Loud Quiet Loud documentary, and a lot of footage from Boston in the 90s. And I'm sentimental from spending time in the Northeast myself in the 90s. There's just something about the light. I like it. Now I guess we're seeing New York City. That afternoon light, it just perks me up. It just does something to me. Walk out of Penn Station. I like the granite in Penn Station. Apparently that's all that caught my eye. I didn't take other pictures. We'll get back to Penn Station later. We're in New York City. I've arrived in New York City before. Here, this time I just started walking east. Like, it's daylight. It's not going to be light too much longer. I'm going to capture as much of this daylight as I can. Empire State Building, I noticed. Grab me a selfie. I'm kind of like 60% smug in this picture. New York City, what I immediately noticed, it's weird. I've never lived there, by the way, so I can't claim, even because I haven't even lived there for like 2 weeks, which is probably the bare minimum to say, well, when I was living in New York City, work that into the conversation. No, but I've been there enough times that I kind of feel like I can speak as an authority. Like, I wandered New York City plenty with my parents in the 80s. I was down there a whole bunch in the 90s, a handful of times in the 10s. I don't think I ever got there in the zeros. New York City has become simultaneously like more kind of trashy, like trash everywhere, graffiti everywhere. And I'm talking graffiti of a very low caliber. That, and somehow less gritty and idiosyncratic, and more just kind of like a not very well kept up place. It's missing it's less frequent to run into that like water chestnut roasting smell, and things have just changed. Actually, legalization is kind of like half finished in New York City, like marijuana, and there's weed smoke everywhere. I mean, like everywhere. Like, this whole city is like, it's like dazed and confused. They're really into weed in New York City. It's like everywhere. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that anybody would, I don't know. It doesn't seem like don't you want to be out in nature or something? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. Looks like we got the Chrysler building, that light. This is mostly the light. That's what I'm getting in these pictures, because I just love the light. I can just like soak it up. Someone's still holding on to the COVID-19 dreams. And indeed, from time to time, we all do need a little bit of COVID-19 testing. Although this is an uncommon sight now. What's not so uncommon is the weed delivery wagons that, like, there were entire Cheech and Chong movie plots about like food truck type like panel vans dedicated to marijuana. And now they're like parked on every corner with no customers, because the market for weed is so saturated in New York City that clearly none of the vendors are making any money at all, because they're all going to make like one sale a day, because every storefront in well, we'll get back to that. So I headed down to the East River. That was my mission, and I was still holding on to some daylight. And it's a precious thing. And it's a long wait for the East River Ferry, and I messed up and tried to get on the wrong one. That was some other thing, and got pretty politely sent on my way. But I needed slip A, and I highly recommend that you take the East River Ferry. It's subsidized. It's like $4, and you get to go on the freaking river on a boat on a voyage, and they let you on this boat, and you're in there with all these people, and there's a suspended ceiling, and there's a door that I think I have in my photos. And I'll sit near the door, because I think I might want to go upstairs and look around while the ferry is moving, because I like to go stand on the deck and see the sights. So the ferry docks, and we get on, and I find my spot where I can leave my spot and go look around on the deck, because I'm going to make the most of this ferry ride. And then the most wonderful thing happens. One of the workers comes along and locks us in, because nobody walks around on the East River Ferry while it's moving in December. Maybe they loosen the rules in warmer months. I don't know. Then if the ferry starts to sink, we're going to be able to get out. It wasn't locked from the outside, but that's a heavy duty lock. And there's no conversation. Nobody says, we're closing the door, say your goodbyes to the people outside. No, they just close it, and you're just in there. And the windows are crummy with like this weird peel off stuff, like, what's it called? The scratch proofing or whatever, or tinted. I don't know. You can't see through them that well, but it doesn't matter, because we're finally getting the gritty that we've been seeking since we got off the train at Penn Station, and New York is looking simultaneously a little less its usual old self with the dirty clothes, and a little more just like people stopped caring about it. Don't worry about that. Good people watching in the ferry, although not the best I've ever seen. More like you just kind of try to blend in. Great opportunity for some photos with the reflected interior lights from this basically floating room that we're in, reflecting back at us, and then looking through the crummy glass. And I was really pretty happy with these photo taking opportunities. Got in some good shots. The ferry stops from time to time, and suddenly you're in Williamsburg or something. There's the temptation to get off, but then if you get off, you can't get back on. You're going to wait another hour for the ferry or find some other means of getting back to Manhattan. So you have to consider this carefully. There's a little dog. That light. We're not in the desert. This isn't like Edward Abbey, or whatever, nature photography. But I just think the light here, the fluorescent light in the sky, and there's something about the light. There are Frank Sinatra songs about this city. It's an exciting, I don't know. If you're just kind of like, whatever about this city, there's something wrong with you. So I understand all of you people who lived in New York for at least 2 weeks in your lifetime, which I never have. And you say, yeah, actually, you do kind of settle down after a while and you just find your routine. And I understand what all the excitement is about, and I'm happy for you. I really am. It's good-natured ribbing. I'm giving you a little good-natured ribbing. At some point, I couldn't resist anymore. I thought, I'm going to head into Brooklyn, which is gigantic. And so just start wandering on foot and find interesting things. Here's the dog in the dry cleaning shop. I think he's there all night. I think this place was closed. A lot of dogs in windows. We'll see a few here. Wonderful place to get healthcare, kind of all-purpose. This stop okay, let's say this is somewhere in the borough of Brooklyn. I feel more like a savvy New Yorker if I talk about boroughs. That's what I'm doing. So we're in, what borough is this? Oh, this is in the Brooklyn borough. This just stained glass, like, oh yeah, random stained glass that somebody decided to put in years ago. This is the something street. Hewes? Yeah, if you want to see the stained glass, which I recommend for your tour of the city. Oh, those of us in the know, we refer to it as the city. Everybody knows what city we're talking about. You know what I mean? Hewes Street in the borough of Brooklyn. In this stained glass, of course, I only took like 2 pictures of it. But you know what? If you really want to see all the stained glass, go see it. Don't rely on me. What are you doing at home? Get out there. Check it out. There's a subway that goes back across, and then you're back in Manhattan before you know it. Most uninteresting part of Manhattan, where I seem to always end up having to go through, is like where the city hall is. Just for some reason, I'm like, oh, my trip is over. Get me out of here. Chinatown. I ended up across the table from these 2 guys in this little hole in the wall Chinatown eatery. And the guy, it said on his hat, he's a food blogger. They were very serious about their food. They were taking pictures. Regret. I always have a regret when I come home from a trip, and it's always that I didn't chat up so-and-so. Here, obviously, who I didn't chat up, that I will, like, forever not be able to forgive myself. These dudes. Because I knew they were food bloggers. I was sitting there looking them up on my phone while they ate, because the guy had his thing on his hat. And here's their handle on Instagram. And I love this guy. The guy on the right in the black jacket. The way he enjoys food, the way he presents food, and all the enjoyment that goes along with it. Give that guy a follow. But man, why I didn't chat them up, I don't know. It was the opening night jitters, right? Chinatown, there's still an internet cafe rocking and rolling in Chinatown. I got a covert picture of that. I ordered all the wrong stuff at the Chinese place, by the way, and I should have paid attention to what these guys were ordering, the food bloggers. So we're gonna stop pretty soon. I did want to see the big, huge deli. I didn't buy anything. I just wanted to see it, and you have to it's a what I forget what it's called, but you have to take a ticket when you go in, like a take a number type ticket, and that somehow determines how you get your food, which I didn't order. I went and took my selfie, and I wanted to leave, and they're like, sir, where's your ticket? You have to give your ticket to get out. So I did. And it's fine. The ritual of New York City, something that's still there, even though it's lost some of its grittiness and become more sanitized, even though it's also junkier than I've ever seen it before. That grittiness still lives on in the form of people kind of letting you know that you're an idiot. That's just like, thank you, sir. May I have another? Like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had to give this little piece of paper back in order to leave your establishment. But here, yes, and yes, I am an idiot. There's the Bud bus or whatever. Note the absolute absence of a line, because you can buy weed every 50 feet if you want. Stock up. You can probably get a deal. You can probably talk them down on a lid or whatever it's called, because a lot of, what's it called? A lot of competition in the marketplace. A lot of inventory out there. Another dog in the window. This church is pretty neat. I guess it was a full moon. It's a cool night. It's cold. It was like 5 degrees. I walked a bunch. Ended up at a Christmas tree lot. Whatever. I like the Christmas tree lot, although we're gonna do new edition, next edition of Guide to New York. I'm afraid that's all I have time for right now. So we reached the end, and I will show you some better Christmas tree lots that I found, because the first one I showed you there wasn't much to it. There was nobody around. There was no music playing, and it was actually kind of a downer.